Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk with Rev. As you know, this vlog is about me just talking about some real issues that I think pertain to your life. At least they pertain to mine. And maybe if you hear my story in the words of my dad, Vivi, my spiritual father, Vivi, I should say, in tribute to him, of course, their little corner up there is dedicated to his life. Some of the things that he's taught me was a real simple thing. You can't ever point at a man and say, you need to do this. Because if you do that, it doesn't work. What he would always tell me was, because I'd call and say, what do I do? And he'd say, I don't know. I'm like, well, you're no help. He says, the decision to do what you need to do is up to you. Let me tell you something that I did, and maybe it will help you, and maybe it won't. And that's how he gave advice. So instead of him telling me, hey boy, hey son, you need to do this, that does not work. If you're the person right now that's out there always telling people, you need to do this to your employee, or you need to do this to your family member, or you need to do this to your husband or your wife or your business partner, it doesn't work. What we do is we take and say, here's an example of something I went through when I was 20 or 30 or 40 or 50. And in this example, you might find a solution for what you're going through. But I can't tell you what to do. Nobody can. And anyone who thinks they can, let's be honest, they're too pompous and arrogant, and you shouldn't listen to their advice. They can only tell you what they've done. I can't tell you what my wife's done. I can't tell you what my buddy's done. I guess I should rephrase that. I can tell you what they've done. But guess what I can't do? I can't express the influctuations of the tonality, the pain, the suffering, the joy, the excitement of what they went through, because I didn't experience that. I can tell you they accomplished something great, like climbing a mountain, like Mount St. Helens, but I can't tell you exactly what my wife felt on that trip. I can tell you what I felt. I was there. So I can tell you what I did, how I got up Mount St. Helens, how I experienced my tribulation. About halfway up, I was forced to take off my pack because I couldn't accomplish the goal of summiting without doing that. My wife had to do the same thing at another location, and so it was really interesting. So we have the same experience, you'd think, but it's not. It's different. So I can't tell her, and she can't tell me, but we can tell you, or we can tell each other how I did something and what I did, and maybe that'll help you, and maybe it won't. So that's kind of what Real Talk is. All right. Today's topic is about a very dear friend of mine. He just passed. And Milo Milf was his name. Milo was, when I met Milo, he was 92 years old. And that was, I'm a little not sure on the date, but I want to say that was in 2010. Okay? 2009 or 2010. So Milo just passed, which means Milo lived to be 102 going on 103. That's crazy, right? Now here's what's interesting. How did I meet Milo? Milo Milf came to us, and when I say us, to a nonprofit organization, a fraternity of men that I belong to. And he came to that organization, and he said, I want to join. Everyone's like, has anyone told you you're 92 years old? He's like, yes. So what are you wanting to get out of this? I want to learn. I want to change to be better. I'm listening to this going, are you kidding me? You're 92. Has anybody told you you're probably not going to be alive in a week or two? You don't need to change. You're 92. Now, let's look at the man himself. He went to World War II, and he was educated, and so he went in first non-educated, so he was an enlisted man. And then after going through the military and through World War II, he then got an offer from the military to actually go and become a psychologist. They wanted a psychiatrist from him. So we're going to send you to school to learn about the mind. So they put him through all the universities. I think it was UCLA and University of Hawaii, of which, after he had his practice for years, became a teacher, a professor, and then became the dean of psychiatry. And again, this is at UCLA and University of Hawaii, where he did most of his work. Now that's mind-blowing. This man is 92 years old. He was not just a professor, but became the dean of that department. This guy's brain power and his experience is just huge up in this mind. And yet he's 92 years old, and he's telling this kid, because at the time I was a kid, I'm still a kid compared to him, right? I was, what am I, 50, almost 47, so that put me at about like 35, 33, somewhere around there. I was in my 30s, still trying to figure it all out. Milo is telling me then at 92, he is not ready to stop growing. And that's what I realized from his experiences. He's never done growing. You are never done growing. If you ever want to upset me, be an old person and tell me, I'm 70 years old, so I know what I'm doing. I'll snap at you so quick. Just because you're 70 doesn't mean you're smart. I know more 70-year-olds who are dumb, okay? And they think they're smart because they've lived 70. I lived 70 years. I've made it through presidents, scandals, divorces, deaths. I've made it. Let me tell you. Hey, knucklehead, if you live 70 years, does not give you the right to call yourself a wise person. And if you're 70 and you think, I don't need to learn anything else, well, guess what? You're definitely not a wise person. So for those watching this, if you ever talk to an old person and they're like, well, I know what I'm doing, run away from those kind of comments. I'm wise. Run away from those kind of comments. I don't tell people I'm wise. And I don't tell people I have all the answers. I don't. I really don't. I just have some unique experiences and I can share them with you. And if they help you, that's wonderful. Because this experience called life, you got to figure out. Milo at 92 years old said, I want to learn. And he spent the last decade of his life learning an entire new system of things and trying to expand his consciousness, and he's trying to evolve as a human, and he's trying to show his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-great-grandchildren how to live. He modeled it. He had wealth, power, influence, experience, and he would be what we call a senior statesman. Why the heck does he need to go back to school? He said, because. Here's his answer when I asked that. He said, because, Jonathan, the world's changing so fast. You cannot not continue to educate yourself. Because what you got taught at the job last year is almost irrelevant in many places. It's moving so fast. We're becoming so, I don't want to use the word so smarter because it's not a proper term, but it illustrates the simplicity of it. We are becoming so educated up here. And it's on a faster pace. I pick up this little thing called a phone. Now, I was listening to a show earlier with my wife. What's interesting about this phone right here. Now, this is an iPhone. I've got a Droid. So for those that are Droid lovers, don't hate me because I got an iPhone. I got both. This phone has more technology in it than all the computer systems that took the spaceship, the Apollo, from Earth 250,000 miles to the moon, around it, orbit, land on it, spend a little bit there, shoot back up, connect, and come all the way back to Earth 250,000 miles. And this phone has more power, more computer, everything than that entire system that they had there. And that's what? Right before I was born, when that happened. Technology's changing so fast. I don't have to go. I wonder what library I can get to, and I need about 17 books, and I can get this up. I don't have to do that anymore. Hey, Siri. And that little button pops up and says, what can I do for you? Hello, Jonathan. How may I help you? Sorry, Siri. So, knowledge is changing so fast. There are certain principles that never change. That is true. Being kind gets you better results than being nasty. Those are principles. Those are timeless principles. They never change. Say please and thank you. They go a long ways. So that's not what I'm talking about, but what I'm talking about is techniques to, as an example, back in the day, if you wanted to change a habit, man, you had to spend really a lot amount of effort and time to do it because you didn't have a bunch of knowledge at your disposal. But now, if I want to figure out how to change my eating habits to a healthier, higher maybe vegetable content or higher protein content or higher fruits and vegetable content, whatever it is you want to do, right? All you have to do or pick up that little thing called a phone and say, hey Siri, I'm looking to do some new eating habits. What's the best program? And it will pull up everything you need. And within a half hour, you are an expert almost on a field that you've never heard of before. And then you can experiment with what the knowledge that you have access to told you to do. See if it works for you. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. You change it, you adjust course, you check another website, you check another advice from another person who maybe did it. You're trying to follow someone who actually has lost weight, right? Or is eating healthy to live better. See, I never told anybody how to lose the weight. All the people who have lost the weight from me, they lost it because they saw me lose 280 pounds and said, how'd you do that? So I explained to them. And then they were able to, with my help, create a plan that they created using expertise from myself, from my life, my experience. And so that's how we do these things. But if you have a mindset that says, you know what, man, I'm wiser than you. I'm older than you. Listen, this was a guy who was in his 20s, and my average employee's age was in their 50s and 60s. These men had spent 40, 50 years in the trenches of the sales world. They could tell me things. They forgot more than I ever learned at the junction in our lives, right? They didn't respect me because I was a young kid and I didn't have all the years of experience. But at that moment in time in history, the salesmen who were older, who kept saying things like, hey, boss, what could you teach me about how to overcome this obstacle? They stuck with me and all made six figures, rich, wealthy, and loved life. The old guys who said, I know everything, if I was teaching on a topic, for sake of argument, let's say I was teaching on the takeaway. How do you get someone to buy something? One of the tips and tools is called a takeaway. It's used in the clubs or meeting girls. You know, a girl meets a guy, she kind of flirts for a second, or a guy meets a girl and flirts with her for a second, and then he just kind of, not like, I don't need you, but just kind of like, you know, and then she's like, hey, I'm here, and vice versa, right? It's called a takeaway. Yeah, folks, listen, I appreciate you coming to the sales meeting. I could care less if you buy this or not. There's a takeaway statement. Folks, this isn't for you. This is for people who want to travel and enjoy their life. It's okay. You don't have to buy anything. Again, another takeaway statement. And there's this whole mindset. And so if I was teaching that, the men who would say, and women who would say, hey, boss, how did you do that? And then I'd tell them. And then the ones that would say, I got it. They failed. They all couldn't figure out why they made no sales. They would be like, you're not teaching us properly. Wait a second. I teach all the time. You don't listen because you know everything. Did you hear the bulb bing? The light just went off in your head? Yes. Even my wife in the background in the studio is laughing. The truth is simply that. Bing! That's the key. You think you know everything. Now, you want to get my wife to laugh. Try to tell her that statement about me. I don't know if you heard her in the background. She's like, she's trying not to laugh. I do know so much. But the older I get, here's what I've learned. I actually don't know anything. Really, I don't. I have a lot of useful knowledge in there, and I have a lot of useless knowledge in there. I tell my wife all the time, do you know why they built the train this way? She's like, nope, but I bet you're going to tell me. Absolutely. And I explained it to her, and she's like, wonderful. I'll never use that knowledge, but now it's in my brain. See, I could have that attitude, but here's my attitude. Here is my attitude. Right before I decided to do my Real Talk, I watched a video of a mentor because I wanted to be inspired and get some tools to give you. And you say, but wait a second. You've watched that same video a bunch of times. Folks, there are books in my life. Some of them are up here. Some of them are in different places. This one right here, as I drop all my things from the desk, this one is called The Unshakable Kingdom. I've probably read this book by E. Stanley Jones at least 200 or 300 times in my life. Somewhere between 2 and 3. I know more than 2, but I know no more than 300. And I read it every year, multiple times. There is wisdom and knowledge in going over, because you forget. Our brains, we sometimes put data in the back and forget about it. And then all of a sudden you hear something and you open something and you go, oh my gosh, oh, that's amazing. How did I, oh, it's in the same book I've read for years. It just was stuck in the back, forgot about it. So see, you have to educate yourself. Bing. You have to always go, I need the light to click. I need the light to click so that I can better myself. And how you do that is this. Let me tell you something about growing and not growing. If you go outside of our office and our studios and you go walk around the grass, here's what you're going to find. Green grass and brown grass. What does the green grass symbolize? Well, green symbolizes growth, as I'm looking at it right now through the windows. There's growth out there. I see actual darker greens coming in because even though it's winter, it's March. So April's right around that corner. So the earth is transforming itself, and the flowers and the earth itself, certain chemicals are releasing inside of the soil, and certain animals are coming more alive. And so all this beautiful dance of nature is happening right before your eyes. But yet, in that same dance, there's this brown grass. What is that? Well, go pluck it. Take a finger of brown grass and go and pluck it. Take a strip of green grass and go and pluck it with the same intensity. The green one's harder to take apart. The brown one, not so hard. It's dead. There's no life in it. There's no nutrients in it. It is dead. It's wilted. It's disgusting. Now, what one of my dear friends once taught me was, are you that? Are you the green piece of grass? Or are you the brown one? That brown one's been there for 50 years. It must be the right one, right? No. That brown one's been there for 50 years, and it's dead because it refused to continue to grow. It said, I'm done growing. I want to die. And I stopped, and it was like, bing! Wait a second. Are you explaining to me that if I think I'm filled up, my knowledge, if I think that I have it all, that I'm the brown grass, I'm dead? And he looked at me and he says, you got it. And it went. It was like a light bulb. Bing! And so, have you ever been to a sales center or a new company and you have someone call you the green pea, the greenhorn? Like if you guys ever watched the Alaskan crab season stuff up there, Deadliest Catch, I think it's called. The newest guy is called a greenhorn. It's because his horns aren't seasoned, right? A green pea doesn't know anything. So the green peas, when they come into an organization, they get handed usually a manual or a book or a boss that just says, here's all you do. If you do it, you succeed. If you don't do it, you fail, and off you go to the next job. Fair enough? I mean, we all kind of see that in every system that's out there. If you go to Starbucks and get a job, they've got an onboarding process, and they take you through steps. And if you do everything they tell you in that manual and in the training, then you'll be a successful barista. But here's what happens. As a person who spent his career in nonprofits and profits, it's the same in all of them. A salesman comes into me, and they would ask me when I was making billions for companies over the years. These companies were making, I was part of a company that was $1 billion enterprise. And my division was only 100 million of it, so I only, took responsibility for a tenth of its income. But here's the interesting thing. My division, my guys, I always ask for the green peas. Give me somebody who knows nothing about sales. And they'd be like, are you nuts? These guys are like seasoned. And I was like, yeah, they're brown grass. Every time I walk up to a seasoned pro and I ask a couple questions, yep. And when I hear the yep, I know that, I know, I don't want to work with that person. No, thank you. They're good. And they might make $150,000, $200,000, $300,000. That's not the person I'm looking for. I want the green pea. So when I tell a green pea, here's what you do. You follow these 30 steps. I want you to put it on a piece of paper. Here's the 30 steps. Step 1. Hello, Mr. and Mrs. Brown. How you doing today? Shake their hand. Step 2. And I take them through these little steps, right? Let's just say it's 30. It was just shy of 30, but we'll round it up. So 30 steps from the opening to the close of your sale. If you do these 30 steps, you're going to close 70% of the people you see. Now, here's the kicker about our industry at that time. The average person only sold 30%. I'm telling a young person who's never done this before, old people who have never done this before, but they were green behind the ears, they were green peas, greenhorns, and they believed me. What's the key word I just said? They believed me. I said, do these 30 steps and you'll make success. And they did the 30 steps and they made success. And they would close 70% every time. First week, second week, and then came week 3. Sometimes 4. But it's that first month at the end. their sales go like this. Boom. And I'll wait a week. And then they come to me. Boss, I don't know what's going on, man. I haven't sold a deal. And I wrote more than anybody for 3 weeks. What happened? You did. You did. You chose to think you knew better than the 30 steps. And did you notice the last week here? You skipped step 26, you skipped step 24, you skipped step 18, and you skipped step 7. Why did you skip those? Well, I mean, listen, I know they're your steps, I know they work, but I can finish this faster, get done quicker, and get to another sale. And I said, how'd that work out for you this week? So see, your way didn't work. You ready to go back to the system that works? Try it. If it doesn't work, if I lied, the proof's in the pudding. Move on, find a better system. And they'd go back to my system, and it worked, and I didn't lie, and they made a fortune. Those are the people I want to work with. Those are the people I hire in my companies. Those are the people I bring on board as our pastors. I hire nobody who says to me, I am filled with knowledge. Here's what I want to hear. I am filled with life experiences, education, collegiate. I've got all this experience, but I also know the older I get, I don't know all that I think I know. The way of not knowing, right? As my friend D.E. would say. So, in the Real Talk message today, the lesson that we started with is talking about Milo, this 92-year-old man that I met that decided to change his life at 92. Folks, I pray when I'm 92 that I still have the heart that's humble enough to say to some young man who's in his 30s, hey, could you help me in this area of my life? I want to improve. And they're probably going to look at me like I looked at Milo. Are you kidding? Did you see your accomplishments and all these people you've had your picture taken with and done things for, and they've done things for you, and the wealth and this and that? Yeah, none of that means anything. My name is Jonathan Brown. I am your friend. I love you. I want to learn to be better every day. This humility and this quest for knowledge is what Milo Milf passed on to me. See, Milo's physical body is gone. His passing, sadly, I didn't get a call from some dear friends who should have. And I'm not angry about that. I was for about 10 seconds because I'm human. And then I realized it's okay. They're not perfect. Neither am I. So then I just was evaluating for the last week my friend's life and what he did to me and how he changed my life. See, I always thought the reverse. God, by the time I get to 90s, I'll have to sit in this chair, put my feet up on my lounge, and they'll all come from around the world to hear my knowledge. Milo thought the same thing, by the way. And then Milo realized that's not how it works. And luckily, I had a great mentor in Milo. Okay? Milo taught us that at 92, up until the day he died, just so you know, I actually touched base with him not too long back. And one of the interesting things he said to me was he was just starting a new project. And he's like, I'm so excited. I don't know anything about this, but I'm looking forward to learning. And that to me is what this message is about. And it reminds me of one of my favorite heroes that was a president of the United States. His name is Teddy Roosevelt. If you walk around the offices, you'll see books all over the place. And you'll see a lot of books on Teddy Roosevelt. The man was an amazing person. There's a lot of things about him that I love. He was an oxymoron. I think that's one of the reasons I love him, because I'm an oxymoron. He loved hunting, yet he was one of the world's largest preservationists. You know what I mean? And so that's an oxymoron. Wait, you're a preservationist? Don't shoot animals? But you hunt? Yes, you can be a preservationist. You can be a hunter. It's an oxymoron. And this man did it amazing. And because of him, we have our national parks and all of these things because of an oxymoron who loved to hunt. And he wants to preserve animals and understands the need to hunt and provide food for your family. And he did this. But that's not the only reason why I love this guy. I love him for many reasons. He was the chief of police of New York. Became a governor, became a president. During his presidency, he had the Prime Minister of France come to the White House. He had a couple hours of downtime. He wanted to take the Prime Minister for a walk to show him something. Now, for those that have been to the White House as it sits right now, here's what most of you don't know. If you ever heard the political term, the swamp, they're going to clean up the swamp. meaning Congress and the presidents and the executive branch office, the legislatures, the Senate, and the Congress. They call it the swamp. And the reason is the entire place was built right at, actually, a swamp. It was a swamp. They drained and built D.C. on a swamp. So before, this is when Teddy Roosevelt was there, they didn't have all these fancy things that the city has now. There was literally creeks that you'd have to walk through to get over somewhere. And Teddy wanted to take the Prime Minister of France to show him something. So they're walking, they get to a river, and Teddy strips down naked. He's the President of the United States, and he's with the Prime Minister, which is the equivalent of a President of France. And he goes, takes his stuff, puts it above him, walks across the river, and he's like, hey, get undressed. Come on, let's go. Prime Minister of France is like, oh, oui, I now go. Teddy didn't care that he was President of the United States. He learned a long time ago. He puts his britches on the same way that the President does. He puts his britches on the same way the homeless guy does. It's amazing, no matter what person you are on this earth. We all put our britches on the same way. We all have to go to the bathroom. We all have to eat substance. We all have to drink substance to live. None of these things can be forsaken by all of us. We're all equals in that respect. And why would this man then not want to cross a dirty river to see a magnificent view of something that's just spectacular that you should at least see once? And that's how Teddy did things. Then when of course, you finish your presidency, what do all of our presidents do now when they retire? All right, you finish your time in the office and you become the statesman, right? You've got, what's that, one of the worst, what's his name? I'm trying to think, I say one of the worst. Economy-wise, people say he was one of the worst presidents. Carter. Look at Carter. Most people forgot how bad Carter's presidency was. They do. They just forgot about it. Why? Because Carter said when he was done, he wasn't done. It's on to the next adventure. Okay, I was a president for one term, and didn't seem like it did too good of a job to some people. Others thought it was. Again, I'm not picking politics. I'm showing you an example of a man who was Republican, a man who was a Democrat. They all see the next step as the next part of their life. And they want to evolve. They want to become better. They want to do something and be the best they can be at it. So they strive. Now he builds humanitarian houses with Habitat for Humanity. And he has changed his entire image of who he was. People don't even know what the shortages of gas were. And they don't have any recollection of that. They're like, Carter, no, he's that nice old man that he works at the Sunday school at his church still to this day. Him and his wife teach a Sunday school class. And they go build houses all week long. Wow. Now, that's a man who said, I'm not done. I could be done. I could just write the book and do the tour. No, he's not done. And Teddy didn't want to be done either. So when Teddy was done, he's like, wait a second. So what did he do? He scheduled a trip to go explore this river in South America that almost killed him and his son. Now, he started to explore things. He never gave up. He was building and always devising new ways to improve himself and those around him and the organizations he was part of and that he founded and that he was on the boards of. He was trying to improve not just himself, but his fellow humans. But wait, he's at the end of his life, like Milo. Yeah. So if you want to be the Tony Robbins, the Michael Jordans, the Bill Gates, the Kiss rock band, you want to be the Dr. Dre, you want to be Miss Elliott. I don't know what your dream of a person is, but whatever that is, I can assure you one thing. All the people that you dream to be like, they did stuff that most people aren't willing to do. And that is put in the extra time. See, I still study. So I go at it. I go at it. I'm reading. I'm listening to audio tapes. When I'm walking, I got earphones in and I'm listening to things that are educating me and making me smarter and making me the best version I can be. And that's what I want you to learn from this message today. I'm going to wrap it up. I try to keep them always under 30 for our real talks. A little longer than a standard message, but I had a little to share with you today. Milo was a special friend and he taught me a lot. And those that I mentioned, some of my mentors who weren't physical mentors, like President Teddy Roosevelt, he wasn't my personal mentor, but he mentored me and still does through his books and his writings. So you can find mentors throughout history that you like and go, ooh, and get their material and continue to be mentored by them. I'll read some of the books over. I got a library in the next room of over 1,000 books. And I have read and reread and read and reread some of the ones that are the greats. And it's amazing how they can help us. So stop being the dead guy, the dead grass, the dead girl. Stop it. Turn yourself green. Become a green pea. Pretend like you know nothing. Learn from the person that just got hired. Even though you've been in the company for 50 years and that girl or that guy, they just joined last week and they're outselling all of you, here's what you do. Take everything in your head, puke it out on the table, turn over to that person and say, teach me, educate me, show me. And then you too can accomplish it. And it all has the beginnings with this thing called belief. So as I wrap it up, I want to say something about the word belief. It starts off with the message. We talked about the phone, right? This phone has more technology than the spaceship that went 250,000 miles to the moon, circled the moon, came back, and as it's circling the moon, shot a piece of its shuttle down to the planet, landed on the moon safely, explored the moon for a little bit, shot back up into outer space, got into orbit on the moon again, connected with the big shuttle, boop, and 250,000 miles later, they're back on Earth. All that was done. Now, here's the cool part. The President of the United States brought in von Braun. Sorry, most people call it Brown, but he came from Germany. NASA actually, when we won World War II, we took their scientists in Germany because they had some of the best scientists building all the rockets and all these things for Hitler. So we took them over to America, and that's where our space agency, NASA, von Braun, is literally the father of the space world. And this man was asked by the president, can you get us to the moon and into outer space? And he looked and he says, yes. And he goes, wonderful, how? And he goes, I don't know yet, but I believe I can. So you know what the president did? The president got up, and you guys have Googled the speech right here. The president's speech where he said, we're going to go to the moon in this period of time. Do you know that he never spoke and told von Braun or any of the people at NASA that they had that period of time to get it done? So he stands up and does this speech to America. We're going to go to the moon in this period of time. And everybody's like, this guy's smoking crack, even though crack wasn't invented back then. No, here's what he did. He set the bar up here and said, go ahead, guys, figure out how to get there. The people then looked at von Braun and said, we can't do this. And he said, why not? Well, it's never been done. He says, then maybe we can do it. Why don't we believe we can do it? And his belief and the president's belief was so strong that we actually got to the moon with nothing in comparison to the knowledge that I have in my hand right now, with a couple lights that's so rudimentary, their computer system. It's almost embarrassing when you think about it. How now? I laugh. I'm in the car with people and they're like, where am I going? Down the street you've driven on for 5 years. Yeah, but GPS usually do. Oh, we're so trained to allow a GPS to tell us where to go. We've forgotten how to even remember roads and names of roads. So we're, in my opinion, kind of going backwards a little with all the technology in some respects at the same time as going forward. And so the belief that someday we could have a cell phone, you know, the first guy that actually came up with this wasn't a scientist. The people who came up with the first concept go back to Hollywood. They were creating this show called Star Trek. And they wanted a walkie-talkie that was a flip phone. Hello, this is Kirk. Captain, this is Scotty. The engines have nothing left, Captain. I can't give her any more. Damn it, Scotty, this is Jim. I need more. All on a little cell phone. Wasn't created yet. Some person said, let's make it. Don't know how it's going to happen, but I believe we'll do it. And eventually, we created the cell phone. And now, I watched a show today that's talking about these in the next pretty close, in my lifetime. These will be almost a thing of the past. That the technology they're working on is so crazy that they'll have screens be able to pop up right from the side of our head. Like a little screen will pop up right here where my head is. And as I move, I've got my computer and I can scroll through it with my hand in the air and all kinds of crazy things. And you say, that's not possible. Yeah, neither was a cell phone. Neither was, 100 years ago, was it possible to fly to the moon. Yet now we can fly to Mars. So be a big dreamer. Be a big believer. Stop being that person that knows everything. Start growing more. Never stop growing. And if someone makes fun of you for being a green pea, you tell them to come tell the beast hello. And I'll show them what a green pea is. I love you guys. God bless you. Keep it real.